Hey guys, this is Jason
This
Douglas.
is Adam MacArthur, voice of Yuji Itadori.
This is Derek Snow, the voice of Shinra Kusakabe.
This is Phil Parsons, voice of Kenny the Ripper Ackerman.
It's Merc New One. You're watching Voice of the Heroes. Take it away, Flea Boy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's your host, the one and only one, Flea Boy Jetson. And if you're listening for the first time, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any interviews or discussions with your favorite heroes and villains from around the world. And today we got a very special guest that we're shining our spotlight on. He showcased his talents in so many of the best animes of all time, like One Piece, Blue Exorcist, Hunter x Hunter, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, SAO, Pokemon, and JoJo Bizarre Adventure, just to name a few. Let's welcome Kevin Connolly. How you doing today?
I am very well, thank you, my friend. What an opening and intro. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated.
Hey man, I kind of slipped up on that because there's so many other projects I didn't get to name that you've been a part of.
I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky with the career I've had. I'm very thankful for it. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So let's talk about your career path. Let's talk about your origin story, how
Sure.
you came to be in all these animes, what started it off, and was it always like that for you?
Well, inadvertently, in a way, I got into acting when I was in high school because of a girl, of course. And I'll never forget. And in fact, I reconnected with my very first acting teacher just last year. This year,
Oh, that's
who I hadn't
awesome.
seen since I graduated. So that first day in acting class, and I just fell in love with acting. It just storytelling and becoming other characters became such a joy for me. And so that became my life path. I had graduated high school doing theater for 3 years. I ended up doing my undergrad in San Antonio and getting my theater arts degree. Went right into working at a full-time at a children's theater as an actor and instructor and assistant tech director doing lights and set construction. After a year of that, came out here to LA to do my grad work, where I got my master's in acting. And then I graduated in 2001, way back when an actor strike happened.
Oh,
Much like the
wow.
video game strike we're having now, but this was for TV, film, and commercials. And so I ended up moving back to San Antonio to work at the Children's Theater again because there was nothing going on out here. Now, at UCLA, at my in grad school, I met an actor named Vic Trevino. So if you have any older listeners who might remember Pee-wee's Playhouse,
I remember.
He was Ricardo, the world's strongest man, the Latino muscle-bound guy, who is
Okay.
still that muscular today. I literally just saw him in a class right before this on Zoom, and we became great friends. He's one of my best friends, and he mentioned one day we were doing an independent study together, so we made our own class schedule, right? And
Mm.
he said, "Oh, Kevin, I can't meet at 10. I've got a voiceover to do. Let's meet at 1." So he comes in. I said, "So what is this voiceover thing?" Because 20 years ago, voiceover was such a tiny, small niche that it wasn't really taught as part of acting programs.
Mhm.
This is why you would hear the same guy going, Sunday, 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 that monster truck ad, but you hear that same guy in New York and Miami and Chicago because it was such a small, tiny circle. And so I said, "What's this voiceover thing?" He says, "Well, I'm the Spanish spokesperson for Energizer batteries." I'm like, "Oh."
Mm.
And so he told me how long he was in the studio, about 25 minutes, and then how much he got paid. And I thought, "Oh, I need to learn about voiceover."
Yeah.
So I went to my voice and speech teacher, an amazing actress named Judy Moreland, who I said, "Judy, I'm interested in voiceover, and you're the voice and speech teacher. What can you tell me your secrets?" And she said, "I don't know. I've never done it before." And so I realized that's when I kind of realized it was such a small niche that I just began looking for books on voiceover. And in fact, I just remember we had in our directing class, TV directing class, one of the teachers, I just happened to hear him as I was passing by in conversation. He said, "Man, voiceover is so hard to get into." He says, "Once you're in, but everybody wants to do it. And so it's just so difficult to get into, right?" So when I went back to Texas after graduating, I just started ordering every book on voiceover I could get on Amazon. And I would ask other actors, I say, do you do voiceover? They said, oh, yeah, I've done a commercial before. I said, so how did you approach that kind of script? And then someone would say, oh, I did a cartoon one time. I said, well, how do you approach that type of character work? Just trying to learn, to educate myself about how to approach it. Because one of the acting mottos that my college teacher gave me is that acting is acting is acting. What changes is the stage you're performing on, and that's what you have to adapt to, whether it's a theater stage, a camera stage, or a microphone stage, right? And I didn't know anything about the microphone stage. So that was my goal, was to learn about this. And so for 3 years, I was doing children's theater, and I was teaching, and I was reading about voiceover. And then I was living with my parents at the time, and my dad just happened to ask me one day, what are the books you're getting? I said, oh, they're voiceover books. And he says, didn't they teach you that in grad school? I was like, no, they didn't. I'm trying to learn about it now. And, I'm not a religious person, but I think the universe saw that I was so focused on this. He mentions this to one of his best friends in Dallas, who just happens to say, oh, there's a voiceover guy in my building. His office is down the hallway. His name is Bob Magruder, who anime fans may know as the narrator from Fairy Tale, he passed away sadly a few years ago. And he said, do you want me to ask him if he'll talk to Kevin? And he said, yeah. And he said, yeah, he can come talk to me whenever he wants. So I called him up and I said, hey, I'm Kevin, and I've got family in Dallas. I'll make it a weekend of it. Can I come visit? He says, absolutely. So I went up, I drove up to Dallas and stayed with family, and he took me to lunch, and we talked about his career and what kind of voiceover he did. And then he had a studio in his office, and so he put me in the booth and he had me read some copy, and he said, Kevin, you're 80% there. And this was, going back, I'm having to learn about the microphone stage and how to perform on that, because at that point I'd only done theater, so I was still very much kind of in theater actor mode, right? And he mentioned he said, I do a one-day workshop in Houston. He says, if you ever want to come out to Houston and do that, just let me know. I said, great. So I moved to Dallas. I start doing theater, and I say, you know what? I've got friends in Houston. I'll make a weekend of it, just like I did before. So I emailed him and I said, hey, I'm Kevin. We met a couple months ago. Is there a Houston class coming up anytime soon? He said, Kevin, I've got a class here in Dallas in 2 weeks. Send me $100, you're in. Well, I couldn't write that check. A check, kids, is when you used to write. No, okay. Everybody remembers checks. I couldn't write that check fast enough, and I mailed it off to him. Now, in the interim of that, I went to have dinner with a friend of mine who I used to work with at the Children's Theater. She's an amazing actress and singer, and she was in Dallas performing. And she said, so what are you doing in Dallas? What's your goal? I said, well, I'm doing theater. I'm trying to get my SAG card, I'm thinking, and I want to learn about voiceover. She goes, oh, I want to do voiceover too. We should compare notes. I said, absolutely. So she calls me the next day and says, Kevin, there's a studio here called Funimation, and I think they do something with English voiceover and cartoons. I said, okay. Well, me being the big dork that I am, I found their phone number and I just called them up. And I said, what do you guys do? And the gentleman on the phone said, oh, well, we do English dubs to Japanese cartoons. I said, okay, that's fantastic. I said, is there a talent agent that you all go through? Or if I was interested in submitting myself for consideration, is there a casting director or talent agent? They said, oh, just send us your voice demo and we'll put you on the audition list. And I said, oh, absolutely, I can do that. Hung up the phone thinking, I wonder what a voiceover demo is. I don't know, but I'm going to be learning in class in 2 weeks from Bob. So get to class, and in that same building, McAllister Talent, one of the big agencies in Dallas, Texas, the class was being held in the lobby on the first floor. And there's like 8 of us or maybe 10 of us, kind of like in that semicircle. And we were introducing ourselves, like you do in your first day at a new school. It's like, hi, I'm Kevin. Got a master's in acting, but I don't know about voiceover. Well, 2 seats down, this guy says, hi, my name is Mike McFarland. For the last 5 years, I've been a writer, director, producer, and actor at Funimation, and I'm looking to branch out. And I just turn, and I'm thinking, what are the odds? This is the guy I need to talk to. I mean, So all morning we're doing, we're reading commercial copy and documentary and medical narration and all this different stuff, right? And we have our lunch break. And we go to lunch. I come back a little early and I'm reading my book. And I hear this voice say, so you're from San Antonio, huh? And I look up and it's Mike. And I'm like, yeah, no, I just moved here about a month ago. I'm doing some theater and I'm, met Bob and I'm trying to be all, nonchalant and like, so you're with, what was that, Fun Times or Funimate or something? He said, oh yeah, Funimation. I said, this is so funny. I just called like last week and asking about how to be considered for auditions, and they said to send in a voice demo to be put on the audition list. And I'm hoping to learn about a voice demo here, but maybe I could pick your brain if that'd be okay with you sometime. And he kind of rolled his eyes at when I said audition list. And I said, "Oh, what's that for?" And he says, "Well, the audition list is a 2-year wait." I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I've got
Wow.
2 years to make a phenomenal voiceover demo. And he says, no, he says, no, Kevin, look, you're a trained actor. You got good control of your voice. I like how you sound. Give me your contact info and I'll bring you in for something. And 2 weeks later, I was my very first day at Funimation working on Case Closed. And it
Wow.
just kind of,
Every-
so the reason I tell that story that way the part that people miss is that I spent 3 years, because now there's voiceover classes everywhere. Home recording equipment is more affordable and accessible, but at the time, there was no training, and I spent as much time as I could educating myself so that I was prepared to be in the right place at the right time. you
And
know
everything lined up so
and
nicely.
everything lined up. The universe just said, "Oh, Kevin, you want to do voiceover? Well, I'll put this here. Your dad's going to see you, and he's going to talk to his best friend because of Vic, who was on Pee Wee's Playhouse, and blah blah blah. And now you're dubbing anime." And
That's
so
awesome.
this is so when I do panels and when I teach, it's as an actor, you have to put the work in. You have to be prepared and be ready. Because the other motto that my undergrad teacher gave me it's not harsh, but I think it's very true. Your competition is working harder than you. What are you going to do about it?
Mm.
So you have to put in the time and the energy and be prepared, because you never know when an opportunity may come knocking, and you
You're
want to
right.
be as ready as possible.
You're right about
Um,
that.
yeah,
Let me
yeah,
ask you another question, right?
sure.
Is it remarkable, or do you find it kind of surprising how much voice acting itself has evolved? Like you said, back then it was such a small niche. It wasn't,
Yeah,
the dream job, or everybody wasn't trying. Now it's like,
everybody wanted
but
to be in it.
yeah, everybody wants to be a voice actor now, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much content out there, so many job
yeah.
opportunities. What do you think transition, that?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of elements. Actually, just to add to your point, though, real quick, did you ever see a movie called Good Morning Vietnam
Good
with Robin
morning,
Williams?
Vietnam. I
It's a
might have.
brilliant movie. Okay, but Robin Williams, brilliant movie, but he actually plays a real life gentleman named Adrian Cronauer, who wrote a book about voiceover in the 80s, and it's a little dated overall, but just to show how niche of a market it was. In the introduction, he says that voiceover is the second most difficult form of entertainment to get into next to high fashion modeling. And if we've seen all those modeling
Mm.
shows, it's obviously super intense. But no, it has evolved because I think of a number of elements. Is obviously accessibility. Interest has created classes, and now I literally just had a voiceover class on audiobooks right before this through SAG-AFTRA, and all availability of equipment. Like I said, before, you'd have to have a $3,000, Neumann microphone or rent studio space, but now equipment's become so much more affordable and people have learned how to build out, excuse me, recording spaces in their home. Like I built my booth. Off of plans and everything from Home Depot that I
Mm.
use now. And so, um, and of course the internet makes, in fact, I remember Bob Magruder had mentioned that when I asked, because I went to go see him about a week after the class because of he had offered his contact list for all the companies he worked for that we could submit to. And I said, so how things going? He says, well, things have changed a little bit. And I said, well, in what way? And he pointed at his computer and said, because of the internet. And this is
Mm.
20 years ago. So obviously now you've got opportunities worldwide, you know. I was talking to someone about these pay-for-play sites like voices.com, Voice123, VO Planet, where you pay a fee and then you get auditions sent to you, but before all that, you may submit your audition to an agent or to a casting director, and you may be up against, 50, 100, 500, 1,000 people. Well, now you're competing worldwide.
Yeah.
So the transitions have been both, they have their pros and cons, and now it's figuring out, pay scales and what do you charge, and finding repeat clients, and it's there's so many more added elements now that you have to take into consideration. Or like too, like one of the things that I work for I'm a project manager for an audiobook company by day. And one of the big things and I want to do a video series about this, I think, is, now as a modern voice actor, you actually have to be two things. You have to be the artist, but you also have to be an engineer. You have to
Mm.
learn how to record at home. You have to learn how to record high quality sound at home, because there are so many auditions I get that, it's clearly, and this is not trying to be negative against them. It's just, you need to educate yourself, where they're on some little Blue Yeti microphone, in their kitchen, and they've got Mima's a duvet cover over on top of them, trying to think they're going to get professional work. So you have to really educate yourself now in multiple elements to enter into that, and enter into the today's market. Because yes, you have certain actors who may audition from home, and certain audio quality is acceptable for that. But if you want to work from home as a voice actor, you've got to learn what is great audio, what equipment do you need, how do you use it, how do you clean, all that stuff. So those are some of the big changes that have happened in the last, I'd say 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen the change too. I think the change really accelerated when the pandemic hit,
Oh
because it's
yeah.
like when all the studios
Oh yeah.
shut down and you was basically forced to now work from
Oh, you
home.
had to. Yeah.
I
I
think
was
that's when a lot of things shifted in the voice
absolutely.
acting business.
I know, it was interesting that you mentioned that. I thank you for reminding me. I know with like working with Bang Zoom, we had to go remote, and the engineers, thankfully, were so great with me because I had a decent setup. They were able to help me really fine tune. But in talking with a couple of directors, they said, yeah, a couple of actors, they had to build studios from the ground up because they would just audition only. Because obviously, as you said, obviously at the time, especially with like dubbing and video games, that you almost have to go into studio for that because you need everyone to sound the same on the same microphone. Because when you're talking remote, now you're talking about different, room tone and different microphone sounds, and you're having to adapt to all that. And the engineers were amazing. But you're right, that absolutely had that forced some people, that I mean, I had the bass, I just needed to fine tuning. Other actors, they had to say, oh, well, now I've got to buy sound foam, and I've got to find a space, I've got to buy a better microphone and a faster computer, and have to learn, excuse me, all those aspects of it as well. Yeah, that was, excuse me, that was a huge change. And
Yes.
it did allow, for and thankfully I still get some remote work for dubbing, but a lot of the studios also have returned back to local talent only, and we'll just keep it at that.
And of course, something that I feel like changed, that evolved a lot with the voice acting work, everything that comes with it,
Mm,
especially like cons. Like cons now are so popular
a
and so
huge.
big and so important financially for the voice actors
They
now.
are now, and I'm conflicted about it myself. I mean, I'm part of the problem. I mean, I signed with a convention booking agent, and one of and the first conversations was, how much do you charge for autographs? And I'm like, I remember, like I'm a huge Star Trek fan.
Mm.
I've been going to Star Trek conventions since I was in middle school.
What's your favorite series?
Oh, now see that's um I'm gonna have to go back to it really truly is a tie because I started on TOS. In fact, I made a post about this on my Instagram a couple of last month, I think, for Star Trek Day, because the very first episode I ever saw was Arena. But see, then I was right there when Next Gen started. I mean,
Mm.
I remember watching the premiere at my parents' house, and I remember the series finale college party that I had. So, and then all the years in between.
Okay,
And
so next generation for
so
you?
next generation, the TOS is right there, you know. And a quick side note, I had a teacher in grad school named Salome Jens, and she was probably in her 60s at the time when we had her, but she was a dancer, and she would float into class, right? And she talked like the hello class. And she walks into class one day. She says, "Oh, by the way, class, we might have to meet at Paramount. I've got 6 weeks of Star Trek to film." And I was like, "What?" So she was the female shapeshifter on DS9, the leader of the Dominion. And so,
Okay, that
yeah,
must
no,
have been so cool for
I
you.
was they worked around her teaching schedule, sadly, so we never got to go to Paramount. But speaking of voiceover work, I was elated that there was a storyline on Star Trek Online, I think last year, where she came back to voice that character again. So I thought that was brilliant. But
That's awesome.
I forget the original question now. Shoot, you gave me started
Me,
about Star
me
Trek.
too. Oh, the Comic Cons, the
Oh, the comic.
cons,
Oh, absolutely.
the
So
cons.
going back, and so the whole point is that I remember I would buy, I'd spend $10 for the 8x10, and we just get in line, and it was a free autograph. And then cut to a couple of months ago, there's a famous photograph of the Next Gen cast from Bizarre magazine. It's black and white, beautiful photo, and my goal is to get it signed by everybody, hopefully. And I got Marina Sirtis, who was very sweet. We were guests at a convention years ago. But Gates McFadden was going to be at this convention, the Hollywood show is what it's called. Oh, quick other side note. The other Star Trek actor was Todd Stashwick, who was Captain Liam Shaw, who's one of my gym buddies, but he never told us
Yeah,
he was under
right.
NDA. I'm thinking, so when the premiere trailer happened, I was at the gym with him. We were doing a class together, and I said, "Dude, for a year I've been working out next to a captain." He said, I couldn't tell you, NDA and all." Two people knew, I think. One coach knew, and then one member knew because she works in payroll, and saw his name on the paychecks. But so I bring this poster, and there's the pay rate for Gates McFadden. It was $80, because it's the legacy poster. And I get it though, because everyone thinks certain actors are rich, but the conventions is where the money to keep going has to come from now, because those jobs are few and far between.
Hmm.
And we got to talking about it because there was a patron who was upset, saying, "I'm a real fan. I shouldn't have to pay this much." But the other side of the coin is, you look at eBay and you look at Macari, and you see what people are trying to get for autographs, 3 or 4 or 5 times what, these celebrities charge. And it's part of the game now. And
And what people don't fail to realize, if you are a true fan, you want to support that. You want,
absolutely.
like me personally, if it's $80, I'm paying that and
I
some.
you couldn't stop me how fast I put that money down,
Yeah, that's
because
what I'm
for
saying.
me it's the joy that she has brought me, and she was so sweet. We actually talked for just a couple
Exactly.
of minutes. She is an audiobook narrator as well, a fabulous narrator, and I think I would love to hear more. So we talked a little bit about that, but yeah, because the other side of again too, and actors at different levels get different pay from conventions. Like I'm extremely affordable for conventions compared to, I know some actors who ask for, some voice actors who can get $25,000 for an appearance. Um, I am nowhere near that. I'm not even in the same galaxy for that. And the other thing too, they say, well, actors, they're actors, they get paid. It's like, well, anime is one of the least paying jobs in the voiceover market, to be blunt. I mean, I don't think it's any secret. I remember when I started at Funimation, it was $35 an hour, and I maybe worked 5, 6 months, 6 hours a month, if I was lucky. So
Mm.
it's definitely not a full. I mean, for some actors, it definitely is a full-time career. But I think this is also why you see so many actors directing as well, because when those jobs aren't there, there are no residuals. That's live action and that's TV film stuff. There are no residuals in voiceover. So there are lean times, and I think the charging for autographs is just part of the game. And I think I was talking to my agent about this, because again, I was very conflicted with it, and I'm like, but he said, look, it's I charge lower than a lot of other people because again, I know where I fall on the popularity ladder. I'm hoping to increase those steps at some point. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for a Pokemon announcement. I recorded a character 5 years ago that still hasn't come out. And I get emails like every other month saying, is this you on Pokemon Masters? I said, nope, that's not me. Sorry. Because they put my name in the cast list, but they haven't
Oh.
released the character yet. It's like, why would you put my name in the list? I'm not out yet, Anyway, but
You are in both though, right? Pokemon
well,
Evolution and
so in Pokemon Evolution, I voiced the announcer in the anime short that came out of the video game. But in Pokemon Masters, I actually voiced a playable character. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard of video games. It's all about timing. It's all about
yeah.
releasing at the right time. But I'm thinking I recorded that in 2019. I'm kind of ready for it to come out.
Hey, some games, especially AAA games, they take about 5-6 years to
Oh
release.
yeah, no, development is crazy. In fact, I met one actor who she worked on a video game and it came out like I said 3 or 4 years later, and someone brought up a print or something, and she goes, "I'm in that," and they said, "Yeah, you're the co-lead." I'm like, "Oh, I did it so long ago, we never remember." It's crazy. Hmm. But just back to the conventions and autographs. It's part of the game, and I feel like that fans have adjusted to that element. But I hope that they have to kind of understand why it has to be part of the element now. Just because we try to bring entertainment and we have lean times. Like I'm just about maybe this is my first announcement about it actually. I've got a Streamily store now. And I'll be doing a signing on October 25th, so people can go check out some of the prints I have. If they want to buy a signature, they get a print. That's how it works. So
That's so
there you
dope.
go. Yeah.
And where is
Anyway,
it?
there's my thing. Streamily.com. This is one of the sites I think that came out of the pandemic, so that actors could connect with fans still, and it's where initially you
You
would
got to
buy a
send me
print.
that link. That way I can put
Absolutely,
it
yeah.
in the description.
Oh
Definitely
yeah,
send me
yeah.
that link when you get a chance so I can put in the description.
Absolutely.
Heroes, if you're interested, link will be in the
Absolutely.
description or the comment section.
I've got prints for One Piece, for Sword Art Online, for Fullmetal Alchemist, all ready to. So how it works is, and I'd actually been off it for a couple of years. When it first came out, it was you put your prints up in the store, people order which one they want. The company would print them out and send them to the actor, and then they get on YouTube or Twitch and say, "Okay, we've got my live signing. Let's see. This is hey Joey, this is your print. Here you go to Joey. Best wishes, Kevin. There's your print," and just sign for everybody so they could see it get signed, and then Streamily sends them out to everybody who bought them, so they get their signed print and have that little moment online saying, "Hey, that's Kevin signing my autograph." So I thought it was a great idea. And so, and it's an opportunity because I don't have the opportunity to do a lot of conventions yet. That people can at least that I can offer something that if they see something that a character they like or whatever, they can get a signature with that character. So I'll
That's
send you a link for it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I've got
definitely. That's awesome. All right, moving
yeah,
on to another question. Are there
yes.
any upcoming or ongoing anime projects that you would like to be a part of, or animation projects? Because you got stuff like The Simpsons
Oh
still
yeah,
running, and Futurama. Any of that stuff you would
absolutely.
like to get into?
Well, as an actor, I'll take anything. No, but I'll tell you some of the things that I was really there's a Terminator anime I believe that is coming out or has come
Oh,
out.
it came out Terminator Zero on Netflix.
I would die to be on that. I have loved the Terminator since I was a kid. That would be something amazing to be on. There's a League of Legends cartoon, I believe.
Yes,
Um,
Arcane, probably one of the best
Arcane.
animated shows I've seen in my life.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if Vladimir, I was Vladimir. Well, I should say this, I'm the original Vladimir.
Talk that
Uh,
talk. I'm the original Vladimir.
well, it's because this is Hollywood. I've been recast 3 times.
Oh man.
No, 3 times. I was those 3 times. I'm sorry, 2 of the times I was asked to audition, and I didn't. I was asked to
Mm.
audition for the part I originated, and I didn't get it.
It,
Isn't that
oh
crazy?
man, it'd
Isn't
be
that
like
crazy?
that. I even heard for X-Men 97 when they was bringing the cast back
Yeah.
for the original X-Men 90s cartoon. They
Right.
all had to re-audition for the roles
Oh,
that
I didn't
they.
know that.
Yeah, they all had to
That's
re-audition.
ridiculous. I mean, you bring back the OG. Now,
Yeah,
I think wasn't there one they had to recast completely because the original actor had passed away? That I think Magneto, is that right?
I think
I
so.
think
That
one of
and
the
they did,
characters, yeah.
and they did recast Jubilee because I
Mm.
think Abby Trott
Now,
is that.
now that was I think that was an honorable thing
Yeah, she
because
actually asked for that. She
of
told them to recast
of
the character.
ethnicity and representation. Because when
Yeah,
obviously when 97 was done, that wasn't
a
something that was
different
being
era.
pushed
It was
for. It was
a
a different
whole,
era. Exactly. It was a different era,
yeah,
So
different time. Now everything's about,
as close as
um,
possible to, if you,
yeah, to the character as possible that they're representing,
yeah,
which is,
yeah,
for me, to be honest, when it comes to voice acting, I always say I'm okay with whoever could do the job the best.
that's,
Like
it's
in
interesting.
anime, you
Yeah.
have, like um good example, the new hit that just came out on Crunchyroll with Storia,
Mm,
Wand and Sword or Sword and Wand, right?
yeah.
The main character, Will, is played by a black man, and
Okay.
it's a white character though. It
Mm,
was like I would have never known that unless I do what I do when I check in credits and
right.
things like
Exactly.
that. And
Yeah.
you would never know, but he played the job so well that it's like I don't really care what his race is or
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, representation is absolutely important. But I'll never forget. There's a great book called Auditions, one of the acting Bibles from the 70s, Michael Shurtleff, and he just talks about in one of the chapters about audition for anything you can. If you're a 6'5", basketball player, and it's and the auditions for a 60-year-old grandma, go do it. You know, you never know what they're going to want, in the final result. But like you said too, it's also finding it's writing that fine line of making sure you find the right person for the right job, you
yeah,
know.
and I agree
And
with you.
so,
Representation is important,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely,
especially when casting and employment is involved, things like
yeah,
that. But I
yeah,
still feel, to me, if you can find that sweet spot and get the acting chops you need for
yeah.
that character, because I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of y'all, man, kudos to y'all, flowers, hats off to all of the voice actors out there, including yourself.
Thank you.
We grew up with y'all, hearing
Yeah.
y'all laugh, seeing y'all cry,
Oh yeah.
hearing y'all enjoyment, and that's making us laugh, cry, and all that other
Yeah.
stuff too. I can't even tell you, a grown ass man, first time watching anime in my life was during the pandemic like that,
Oh
and
wow.
Naruto, and one of the characters died. I'm like, oh my god,
You're
what the
losing it.
fuck,
Yeah.
man? So
I'll t I'll tell you, I did a live action dub. Um, I'm blanking on the movie now. This is ridiculous. I'll pull up my own resume, but it was a beautiful Korean drama, and it was probably one of the most challenging acting jobs I had. And the director, Wendy Lee, she really pulled out a performance for me that I didn't know I had.
Mm.
But the last shot is of the main character going away on a ship, and the love interest of the film standing on the dock, just unexpectedly arriving there and just waving. And I mean, I'm just there in the studio, just bawling my eyes out, and it's so, because I think it's a combination of the power of, hopefully the acting that, I mean, the performance that we're able to give, but then some of those are just amazing stories that that really obviously touch, hundreds of thousands of people. So it's I'm very honored to be a part of it. And if I can bring a little joy or thought making you think about something differently, then I've done my job well.
Definitely. All right, now let's talk about your top three animes of all time.
Ooh,
Now,
that's right.
they don't gotta be animes necessarily.
Okay.
They can be, shows, cartoons, or something that impacted your life in a major way,
Absolutely.
or something that made you like, like fantasy or
Oh, sure.
comedy. So what's
Sure,
your
sure,
top
sure.
three of all time?
Okay, well, I'll have to start with, and I'll say this, that I didn't know they were anime. So I remember watching or not recognizing that even though they looked like the exact same show, and they were the exact same show, but two different companies did them, was Gachimon, which I knew as
Mm.
G-Force and Battle of the Planets back in the day. So that was one that I used to watch as a kid a lot. But I not understanding that it was anime,
No,
right?
me too. I grew up with
Yeah,
Pokemon and Dragon Ball. I didn't know
there
none
we
of them
go.
was animes. I thought they were just cartoons.
Exactly. And then Battleship Yamamoto. I remember watching that just because the ship was so cool, this big monster ship in space. I thought it was great. Um, but we talked about, I was going to mention this one, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I had the toys, I had Grayskull, me and my brother. But the side story of that is that this was probably about 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I get an email from a casting director saying, "Hey, my name is so and so. Somebody recommended you to us. We're casting Kevin Smith's He-Man Netflix
Oh
show."
my God. Let me tell
And
y'all, heroes. If you haven't seen that, please watch it. It's
yeah,
probably the only chance you'll see Keith David and Mark Hamlin going toe to toe in the whole
hmm
episode. A great Kevin Smith don't get enough credit for this damn
yeah,
show, and it's so good. But talk your talk. Who did you get cast as?
I didn't.
You
That's the
didn't?
thing. But
What?
here's what
That's
happened.
heartbreaking.
Here's what happened, and I've got to word this very carefully. So I get this email, and they're saying we would like you to audition for the show. And at the time, I was in a transition period. Let me just put it that way. Um, they said this is a non-union show and it will never, ever, ever, ever go union. I said, it
Mm.
doesn't matter. I'm non-union. Great. That's where the transition was happening. I was about to join the union. So I read for He-Man and then I read for Skeletor. And I like to say for about 30 seconds, I was Skeletor in He-Man, right? Did the audition, sent it in. About a week later, I get an email back saying, kind of a general email saying, "Hey, hello, my Skeletor men. The producers have listened to the auditions. They've got a little different direction. Please watch this clip. This is the new description, and please, do a callback, basically." So I did my due diligence. I watched the clip. I said, "Oh, that's the kind of mindset," and I read for that. And then I heard nothing. Uh, and one other thing, I mentioned this to another friend of mine, another actor, and because in the email it said if contact us if you know of an actor who may want to read for this. So I had my friend read for it. I got my friend to get an audition. Then didn't hear like for a month, and then my friend calls me out of the blue and says, "Hey Kevin, did you know that He-Man went union?" I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Another buddy of mine went in." And they said, "Oh yeah, the show is union now." What had happened is that Netflix, apparently, if I understand correctly, Netflix was in negotiations with SAG-AFTRA to make everything union that they produced, and they just didn't tell the production company, Kevin Smith's company,
My God.
until the contract was signed. So once that happened, that's when Mark Hamill was Skeletor and all the celebrity voices came in. So that's
Mhm.
what happened in that kind of transitional. I mean, it's Hollywood. That's how this
Yeah,
crazy
it's
business
business
works.
at the day, nothing
So
personal.
now what happened after that though was kind of the moment of like, so, and let me phrase this very carefully. I like Star Wars. I watch the movies, I watch the TV shows. I love Star Trek. So you can kind of see my balance there, right?
Yeah.
But my voiceover agent in England made a post on Twitter saying, "Hey, the new, what does everyone think of the new He-Man cast?" And so I responded to that saying, uh, "I got to read for this a couple of months ago, and obviously, in just fun, I said, if I have to lose to Mark Hamill, I suppose that's okay. Can't wait to watch," or something like that. Mark Hamill tweets back to me and says, "Kevin, don't sweat it. When one door closes, another opens, onward and upward." Couldn't believe it. couldn't believe it. Mr. Hamill did that to me. So, or encouraged me like that. So it was fabulous. It was a great moment overall.
Yeah,
Great
that's a
moment
great
overall.
man right
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
man.
So that's
Luke
my top three. So
Skywalker.
yeah, always
That's
great.
actually amazing, man. That's a nice little story. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next question. Are there
Yes.
any lines from any one of your characters that resonate with you on a personal level, or are there any lines from maybe any plays, scripts, or anything like that that you may have heard
Absolutely.
that hit
It's
here?
yeah. There's one. I just learned this. It's a Shakespeare sonnet. And strangely enough, I'm in a Shakespeare class with a martial arts star by the name of Mark Dacascos, who listeners may know from if they saw John Wick 3, he was the Asian assassin, the bald Asian assassin in that. Older folk may remember he was in the short-lived, he was Eric Draven in the Crow TV series. He was in a brilliant horror film that I loved called Brotherhood of the Wolf, which I highly recommend if you like period thrillers and dramas. But we had to learn a sonnet, and I had seen this one performed by Judi Dench. And the essence of the sonnet is that it's a gentleman, an older gentleman, talking to someone, sharing that they're completely down on their luck, that they're broke, that they have no friends, no reason to live.
Mm.
But then in the moment in the sonnet, it says, happily I think on thee. And what that moment is that there is someone in their life that they think of that encourages them to keep going and that they are worth something. And so I learned that. I learned the sonnet. And when I memorize, I just I'll go for a walk and I'll just, I just read the lines. I don't put any, I don't, I need to get the words down, right? And I went to the class, and when I sat there, and we had to read it to someone eye to eye, just right in front of us. And there is someone from my past that is not in my life anymore, but
No, sorry
is
to hear
someone who,
that.
oh, well, no, they it just the communication dissipated and separate,
Oh,
we
okay.
went different directions in life, but they're a bigger inspiration to me than I today still that I think than I think they know. Well, they don't know because we don't talk anymore. But that moment, that person, and through these lines, and I made that connection to that. I just broke down crying reading the lines. So, but I think that with Shakespeare, any my fellow classical actors who dance the boards, as we say with Shakespeare, that Shakespeare has always been able to connect with the human spirit and human emotion and human journeys, I think, that better than any playwright has ever come close to. And so that for me, that kind of text. But then the other side of the coin of that is I was the narrator in Welcome to Demon School. And I had a line, I did a little video on TikTok, and I said, you know what? I've got my BA in theater arts. I've got my MFA in acting. I have danced the boards in Ireland and here and in Texas and in California. And it's the culmination of this one line in this anime. Release the meat bats. That's what my acting career has led me to say lines like that. So just to get that kind of enjoyment, going from studying Shakespeare and Strasberg and Stanislavski to say, release the meat bats. That's acting right there. So
An actor right there.
that's my answer. There's my answer for you.
All right, now let's talk about your Mount Rushmore of voice actors. These could be people who inspired you, people who you look up to,
Yeah.
things like that that impacted the culture. Who's
Hmm.
your top four
Well,
for your Mount Rushmore of
a,
voice actors?
a given is Mark Hamill. I mean, what I love about him, and especially because, I think I wonder, he's always been Luke Skywalker to millions of people, for so long. And I remember reading that in the 80s after Star Wars that he went on, he did stuff on Broadway. And like he did the Elephant Man. I would love to have seen him in the Elephant Man, which if any theater people know, they know that plays, you have to create the physicality of the character, right? And I think that would have been brilliant, but he's always been Luke Skywalker. And then getting this role of the Joker
It's
which I think
brilliant.
opened up a whole new, which I didn't realize he was a replacement.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till just now.
Tim Curry was the original Joker. And I don't know
Mm.
what happened, if it was scheduling or whatnot, but somehow Mark Hamill came in to replace him. So Mark Hamill is definitely one. One actor that that I've known about for decades because he was in one of my favorite sitcoms called Perfect Strangers, Bronson Pinchot, who I didn't realize has done tons of audiobooks. I'm listening to one right now based on the Aliens franchise that he narrated, and he's a brilliant performer. And so he's been a big inspiration to me as of late. I've listened to about 4 or 5 books narrated by him that he's is such an amazing performer as a voiceover. Because the thing about audiobooks too, which, they're a beast to do because you have to
That's a
read the
lot of
book,
work.
you have to record the book, but that's where I get to play so many different characters, and creatures and where I can really just have fun in the acting playground. I've done
And not
about
to cut you off, but
yeah,
that's the first time I was introduced to probably voice acting
was audiobooks.
because my surrogate father at one point,
Yeah.
he was partly blind. So he would get these cassettes with the books
Cassettes.
on them, and they had like certain stuff he could feel on it that
Yeah.
would let him know play, rewind, fast forward. And as I sleep, I will go to sleep with some of the books
Playing.
he used to
Oh
listen
my
to.
gosh, that's
But
fantastic.
yeah, so that's how I came up learning, and even to this day, sometimes my wife she plays a lot of audiobooks. I might
Yeah.
get a few audiobooks. So, and I used to think to myself, like, man, there's got to be a lot of work to sit here
It
and do
it
something like
is.
that.
It can be. I've been doing I got into audiobooks with this company about 10 years about 11 years ago. I've done about 500 different audiobooks and e-learning and website narration, all this stuff over the years. Um, but yeah, it and this is part of the reason why, we have the threat of AI coming into play in so many genres of voiceover, because it does take a long time. The kind of formula to figure out. Let's say that you have an audiobook, and it takes 10 hours to listen. It's 10 hours long, right? We'll
Yeah.
say a good healthy Harry Potter book, right? Is 10 hours to listen to. Well, I usually multiply that listening time by 4 or 5 to estimate how long it'll take me to produce it.
Oh,
So
wow.
anywhere from 40 to 50 hours because I've got to read the book, I've got to record the book. Unless I have an editor, I have to edit the book myself. I have to, so it's a long, long process. Um, and it's not for the weak of heart. I know some actors who have tried it and said, not for me. But what's interesting too, and because I've been looking at Audible a lot for this, is there are a lot more celebrity voices now. I mean, I also have, we say celebrities, they're still actors. They started out as actors, they're still actors. But like full cast recordings with um, uh, um, Tom Hardy and all these other actors who are doing these things for Audible, whether it's because work is slow or it's just because it's a genre they love. I even came across a series of Dungeons and Dragon titles where Ice-T narrates one. So if you ever wanted to listen to a
Yeah,
D&D
right. For
story
real?
by Ice-T, you can find it on Audible. Isn't that crazy?
I
Yeah.
gotta check that out, man. That would be
Yeah.
crazy hearing Ice-T on Dungeons and
Ice-T,
Dragons.
rapping about dragons and
And
magic.
slaying elves.
Right, exactly, exactly.
That's
Um,
pretty
so
awesome.
so uh, and then like I'm actually a huge fan of Zachary Quinto, who is obviously was Spock in the Star Trek films and everything, but he is also I think an amazing audiobook narrator, and I've definitely tried to learn from how he approaches books. In fact, he did the narration for the original Star Trek novel for the first movie,
Yeah.
because I had gotten my very first audiobook project from the company I work for now, was 4 young adult novels. And the leads were 4 teenage girls. And I'm thinking, how do I voice teenage girls? Do I got to talk like this? I'm like, no, 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 no. So I went back to the old, I went to research, and I was like, how do male narrators approach female characters or female presenting characters? And, found a lot of great instructions and thought, and on how to approach all that. But then I listened to Zachary Quinto doing the Star Trek book, and obviously it's his voice, and it's about tone, it's about timbre and tone and pace. And so when I heard him voice Uhura, I immediately thought I'm listening to Uhura, but it's his voice, you know. But he was able to get the nuances that Zoe Saldana had done in the movie and translate it into the book so perfectly that I'm like, oh, well, it's all about attitude in that aspect. So he's another one that I really, really respect and listen to a lot. And then one of the big names in audiobooks is Scott Brick, who's done everything, Dune, all sorts of great stuff. So those are the guys, because I listen to their
That's a good
character
list,
work.
though. That's a really good
Yeah,
list. I
yeah.
like that
So
Mount Rushmore right there.
thank you, thank you.
All right. If what do you think is the biggest misconception about voice acting?
That it's talking into a microphone. And
Mhm.
I've heard that from more than one person. And if people think that it's us just talking into a microphone, then we've done our job amazingly well, because we've presented it as effortless as it sounds like it is. But the truth is, just like any acting, in my opinion, is preparation and having the skill level and talent and a technique on how to approach any kind of voiceover job. Like with anime, um, I remember when I started. I mean, I was terrified of it. I did not know how to do, because when you're adding anime, again, you're thinking of two different elements. You've got to perform and you've got to bring a character to life, but you also have to worry about timing and matching flaps. So you're
Sure
kind of
indeed.
doing the head thing and the that. Um, and so having to learn that technique and how to be able to get a script, because half the time I wouldn't know what I'd be going in for, especially with anime. I'd get a call from Funimation or saying, "Hey, can you be here tomorrow at 10?" I'd be like, "Yeah, so what's the job?" Click. I'm like, "Oh, I guess I just show up." And that's where you have to put a lot of trust and faith in your director, and you watch the scene, but start, getting your creative ideas in that moment. It's there's a lot of work we put into it. We have
Yeah,
to make it sound as effortless, to make people think, oh, they're just
that
talking
is
into a
true.
microphone, when we're not. They're not seeing the hours we've spent with with a book text, reading that, or a script that we get before, or if you're doing performance capture, you're adding the physicality now, that you have to be in great physical shape to do the voiceover and the physicalization of the character on a stage, to get that capture for, whether it's facial capture or motion capture. There truly is, it's not for the faint of heart. And you have to know, you have to know how to do the work, because we can tell, that just like the camera, the microphone will pick up when it so easily is obvious that you don't know what you're doing.
Mhm.
um I mean, I won't, I can't remember the name of the show, but I'll never forget that I got a call from a director friend of mine. This is many years ago, back in Dallas, at at a short-lived dubbing studio, where he said, "Kevin," and I was visiting family that week in San Antonio. He says, "Kevin, are you in town?" I said, "No, I'm in San Antonio." He says, "Well," I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, we got an actor who I've cast. He was the lead in the show, and this other actor says, please play my brother." And he says, "Hey, we're just having a hard time. He's the dubbing process is a little more challenging than he thought." And I said, "Well, I'm here for a week with my family." He said, "Okay, never mind. I didn't call. Never mind. Forget it. Forget it. Forget it." And that was a Monday. Thursday, he called back, says, "Kevin, when are you coming back to town?" I said, "I come back on Saturday." He says, "Monday morning, be at the studio." I said, "Okay." And what had happened is that this actor, he auditioned great, but he couldn't get the process down of
Oh,
dubbing, of recording to picture. And God's love him. Uh, he had to be replaced. And so that's, you have to have that skill set and you have to be ready for it. And again, it's like I said, it's just not talking into a microphone. I didn't go to school just to say, okay, hit record, I'm saying the lines and leave. No, I take pride in the work I do and to do the best that I can, in the job that I'm given. Because I have to remember, one little thing real quick, and I know we got out of here, is, one of the things that I experience is jealousy, seeing other actors who may do who are doing much better, what I consider much better than me. But then I saw an interview with Nicole Kidman. And the interviewer said,
I was just talking about Nicole Kidman not too long ago.
Here's what she said. So the interviewer asked her, I said, the directors have said that you put in 120%. And she goes, I have to. She goes, because I have to think of a number of elements, obviously my commitment to the story, to the project. She goes, but I have to also remember that I'm lucky enough to work in this industry, that there are 1,000 actresses who would give anything to have this part. And some of those are better than me. So I have to honor that I have this job. And I have to respect the fact that there are so many others who would look at my career wishing they could be where I am. And so that made me pause and say, I bet there's probably maybe someone in the world that looks at where I'm at and saying, boy, even when I feel like, I haven't had an audition in 2 weeks, it's like, oh, why'd they get the job? Oh, they got a Funko Pop now, But I bet there's someone looking at me saying, boy, I wish I was where Kevin is right now in his career. And so I have to remember that. And that's why I put so much work into.
And we appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
We give you a flower.
Roundabout way of saying it's not talking to a microphone. There we go.
But we definitely do appreciate all the work you did. And we're so happy that you joined us here on the show. I would love for you to come back.
Anytime.
We're going to do a 100 episodes soon. And that'll be fantastic for you to come back for that.
Pencil me in. I'm there.
Let people know where they can find you at on social media.
Absolutely. Super easy. It's Kevin M, like in Mary, or as Mike McFarland said in the commentary, the M stands for macho. Kevin M. Connolly. I'm on Instagram under that. I'm on TikTok under that, though I'm not very good at TikTok yet. Obviously Threads, because that's Instagram. On Facebook, it's I believe it's official Kevin M. Connolly. And on Streamily, it's Kevin M. Connolly, because there is a Kevin Connolly who is much more famous than I am, who was on Entourage and a sitcom called
I know who you're talking about.
Unhappily Ever After. Yeah, so he's on there as well. So the middle initial is important, is key. Yeah, Kevin M. Conley across the board, basically, except for Facebook. So please come say hi. I'm trying to get better about posting. That's where I post about. I have a couple of conventions next year. I'm trying to book some more. Also, I'll just say, hey, if you want to see me at your convention near you, a lot of conventions have message boards where you can say, hey, I would like to recommend this person. And my website, kevinmconley.net, not com.net, has a link to my convention booking agent. So if anybody wants to reach out to them, they can, or say hi to me. I always like getting messages.
That's dope, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Heroes, Villains, that was Kevin Connolly. Make sure y'all follow him on all socials. Links will be provided for you either in the comment section or in the description. Like I said, thank you for coming up on here. And Heroes, Villains, let us know who would you like to see next on the podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help us out, man. It definitely helps us in the algorithm. And also more details on that next PS5 giveaway. Until next time, if nobody told you so, just know your boy love you. Love yourself. Pass that love on and love others. And until next time, Heroes, we're out of here.
Sing it with me, pretty Cali, pretty Cali.